Germany. I spent a lot of time looking at learning in the Middle East as an inspector. I still do that. At the moment, though, I'm working more with individual schools on school improvement. I've just got a new book out, Agency for the International Baccalaureate Programs. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Have a look at it on Google. Okay, so if I stop sharing, you can also see my face as part of the discussion. Next thing, my main principle of what I'm talking about today is that online learning has some of the features of what great classroom learning is, and what you want to do with your students. If you're a teacher, if you're a leader, please, with your department or your school or whatever section you're the area for, is really keep making these explicit and see how they apply offline. So I'm going to go back to the screen showing screen sharing, and powerful online learning. We know a lot about effective learning in physical classrooms. We've been working on that for many, many years, and we want to keep on this special time in history to focus on what those ideas are, but we'll get to know them differently. In some ways, we'll get to know them better because we've got to do something different with it. You can't just take your material you provide in class and put it online. That doesn't work. So what we've been saying, one of the key principles for the students that we're looking for, and I look for a lot in the schools I go into, is are you also teaching your students not just to memorize facts, but how do you transfer your information? How do you apply it to situations? Now it's a time that teachers have a key chance to do that for themselves. So what we know about learning, what does that mean in a deeper sense? We can't just throw out what we've already done, but what do we know? What makes a difference? And that should help as we do it, get your expertise for learning online, but also for offline, when you go back in the classrooms, thinking about them. So key aspects I'm going to go through today: relationships and routines, ongoing assessment to be guiding learning, classroom community, engagement with students and teachers, and having some high impact activities. And these are all big, big challenges. The first one, though, is all about relationships and routines. So as a teacher, at the beginning of the year, you spend a while with each new class, building relationships, building routines around learning, and that is key. That's why you'll get, when you do it well, a real pace of learning from December, January, February, March, and so on, much more than you're doing at the start of a school year, because the students know what to do. They focus a lot better, and they know you, and you know them. You put time in a class, and even although it seems a bit strange sometimes to do it online, you have to put that time in. Even more than
Simon, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I ask the participants to mute your mic, please?
Yeah. Even more than in
Thank you.
Of a focus in online classrooms, because otherwise they can be quite cold and mechanical. So start every lesson with a human angle. I'll come to a sample lesson plan at the end. Hopefully it'll tie things together. And consciously consider, particularly most challenging students, just as you would in a normal class. So in a normal classroom, you've got 20 kids in front of you. You're constantly scanning, checking in on them. And you have to find ways of doing that when you're in your virtual one. So heard from one of the colleagues earlier on about streaming YouTube. A streamed lesson is much less effective than when you can find some direct contact with the students. And I'm aware in the Middle East, sometimes pictures can be difficult, particularly with girls. Try and get audio, but have pictures if you can manage, and work with families to find a way that's safe for them, because otherwise the children will be missing out on a lot of the learning online. So having some get to know you sessions, take time at the beginning of the course to do that, and also at some parts of lessons. If the old days, 30 years ago, you'd have somebody at the front of the class, students all facing, not very effective for learning. We do a lot more flexible learning now in the classroom when we group children in many, many different ways, and you move quickly in and out. Now, that's more of a challenge to do. My current recommendation is, use breakout rooms really well. Before the lesson, if you're in something like Zoom, you can set up breakout rooms before the lesson goes. Go into the advanced section of your settings. And you can also set it to move all participants to rooms automatically in the settings, because otherwise the children have to log in and join the room. And for young students, that takes a long time. And what you want is, same as the classroom will say, okay, change into groups, and the children all to do it. And right, back together, and they come back together. You have your in-face interperson thing, and you say, right, back into your groups, back together. Now, to do that in a room, breakout rooms, very good, but make sure you've got a move to rooms button and the children automatically move to the groups that you want. And then if you press the Zoom, the default is 1 minute for moving back into the main room. You can change it to 30 seconds if you want to increase space. 1 minute really works well, and they get a minute's warning that they're going to move back. Depends on the activity you're doing. But we want the children to be working with each other when you're given something to work, to think through, and then to come back together. And you're trying to have that community happening online as you would in person. And then you've got to build in time for teachers to talk directly to these groups. In Zoom, you can join any of these breakout groups yourself if you're the manager, the leader of the meeting. And while you're doing that, see who is doing well, who can have extra challenge, who's not doing well, who needs different support, either individual support later on, before, give them some scaffolding, a sheet that'll help them, a vocabulary sheet, or, whatever, depends on your subject that you're working. And also, because you've been doing the getting to know the children at the beginning of the course, and as you go through, you're listening to their individual interests, their preferences, their approaches to learning. And so you're using that, saying, how can you connect that to learning? So if it's a piece of writing, you can say, aha, you're interested in this. Can you write about this? Oh, can you put more of what you know about it? In science, how does it relate to that? And get a personal connection, so that your online learning is not inhuman learning. It's actually human connections, but mediated differently. So that's one thing why the relationships are really important. Keep going with finding out what needs them and taking time out of the lessons to do that. Engagement is much harder in person than online. We all know that. We all, find that.
Simon, sorry.
Yeah.
Shall we get people to, share their experiences or ask questions?
Yep. Okay. So let's stop there on the relationships part of it. How have everybody found, I'll stop the screen sharing, found the ability to form relationships online with the students compared to what you'd normally do with your students? Maybe talk a little bit first about what age you're teaching, and then how easy it has been to sustain the relationships. Just unmute your mic and mention something. Nobody?
May I share my experience?
Yep. Yes, please.
This is Samina Sumro from Karachi, Pakistan. I teach O-level students, and I was meeting some of my students for the first time, and that was also in an online class. So I spent almost a week simply talking to them, trying to get to know them. And then you see, it was a mixed class. Students from various sections had combined together. They were also new to each other, so I allowed them to talk to each other. And after a week, we actually knew each other. I could tell whether this subject was meant for them or not, or how to take them up through this journey of online learning. So it worked out really well, and now we have reopened schools physically. uh, I met them for the first time 2 weeks back, and we were not strangers to each other at all. So the time that I had to give to them in a physical classroom was reduced to a fraction, and we could start immediately because they knew me and I knew them, and it turned out to be a wonderful experience. The strangeness was gone. The ice breaking session, which would normally have taken let's say a couple of sessions with them, it was reduced to minutes. Thank
Okay.
you.
That's great to hear, Samina, that you're doing that. Very important to do. How is anybody teaching younger children? Because I think they're the most challenging sometimes to do online.
Yeah, can I speak?
Yes, please.
Yeah. As I mentioned that we are not having the online sessions. I mean, we are pre-recording our classes, then we are streaming them on YouTube, then we are having a personal interaction class during the evening times when we feel the children are most comfortable in. So at that time, I see my students coming up with whatever we have taught in our video pre-recorded classes, and there will be many activities which I will be having with them during that time, and it will be great to know that they are sitting in their place and watching the videos carefully and then reverting back to all the answers we have asked to. And it's been almost 1.5 months here. There are no hopes of opening the school physically, and moreover these children are very young to even understand these online face-to-face concepts. But having interaction audio, we are having interaction audio, not even the video we have, because there are a lot of challenges here we have to face, especially to teach the young minds, I believe.
Yes, and I think with the younger ones is very hard because typically you'd want them to do lots of practical activities and you'd want them to do lots of collaborative activities. A lot of their language development and their social development comes from play together.
Exactly.
That's something that is really hard to replicate online.
So what we are trying to do is I have a little girl with me. So I try recording video with her, the activities, what I want my children to do, and then I upload them again. So my children, they will watch that video. Then I will ask them whatever we have done in our session to repeat that again. So as I told, it's really challenging for this time.
Yeah, and one thing I'm going to come to later, I'll mention it now though, is, you want it also children to be sharing products that they can do. So we want them to be doing things offline as well, whether it's in paper, it's building or construction. And with the young children, often it's quite physical things. And typically with young children, you would say, show me, show your friends as you go through a class day. But if you got something that they can talk about what they've done and have, for the younger ones, quite simple questions about how they manage that. How did you do this? How did you do it? Can you tell your friends how you made that? But if you haven't got the video going, then that's a real challenge.
Yeah, it is. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go on to my next sort of area because I've still got quite a few things to go through. So with screen share, PowerPoint share, and make sure I'm on the PowerPoint. Okay, so the engagement, the students and also the teachers, because we normally as teachers, we get a lot from our students from the interaction. That's what sustains us. And the relationships are as important for us, I think, as they are for the students sometimes. A particular challenge is we use banter, we use humor with our children, and that brings them, it warms them up, and it makes them more open to our learning and to our language. That's quite hard to do because humor can be misinterpreted. So we don't want to say something, normally say something with a big smile and a sparkle of the eyes, and they know it's a little bit of a joke. But on a screen, we've got to be very wary of that because they may not notice the humor because they don't have the same visual cues from you as they would in person. long lectures rarely work well in person or remotely. I mean, in my in person, when I'm looking at schools, if one of the biggest problems is teachers talking for too long, and you see a teacher doing an introduction and they got maybe about 10 minutes of content and they talk for 25 minutes and it's not efficient. And children, you can watch them, you know, in a physical classroom as you go on, get through sitting back and, you know, not getting less and less from it. If you're doing videos, keep them short. If you got a longer video, treat it like a signed reading. Say, here's something to watch. Watch it whenever it's best for you. Pause. If it's younger children, they've got their parents with them, they can help and talk about it to keep them online. But say when you've watched it, like a signed reading, you'll say, when you come back from your video or your reading, whatever, I'm going to ask you these 3 questions about it. So they've got a focus for watching it. Same as if you're going to read, you'll say, read this next chapter, passage of a book, or something about science, and at the end, you know, to do something with it. But, you know, short and focused, otherwise students drift off. And it's harder to do an intervention because when it's online when it's in a classroom, you're scanning the class, the people who are not paying attention, you know immediately what to do about it. So you may just say the name, you may ask them a question, you may change your strategy, you may stop and have a discussion. And a lot of these things are harder to do. Plenty of off-screen activities. So even if it's an online lesson, you know, it doesn't all have to be doing things on the screen. You can start it off, and I'll come to the structure I'm recommending. Start it off, then you've got a longer section, which is off-screen activities. It might be still on a device, but it might be write something down, it might be build something, it might be draw something, you know, plenty of things to do that are more traditional school activities.
Can I talk here, please?
Yes, please? Yeah.
Good morning, all. I am Muhammad from Lebanon. I want to give an idea about short videos. Here we always advise the teachers to, if they recorded a long video, they can divide it into ideas. So the long video, instead of recording again, we can divide this video and send them to the children, to the students, as an ideas. The first 5 minutes, then the second 7 minutes, then the third 8 minutes. Here we can benefit from the recorded video, and we apply the idea you talked about short videos. Thank you.
Okay. Who else is using videos for the students and find it either very successful or finds it challenging?
We are using videos at our school at different levels. They seem to work more effectively for younger students compared to the older ones. At least the younger ones, they pay attention when they are assigned these videos on Google Classroom. I think their parents make it a point that the children watch those videos, and the children respond back the following day. With older students, it is a lot more challenging. Either, you see, one thing which worked out was that instead of the teachers assigning them videos, we set them an assignment to find out the right videos, and then they were asked to post those videos on Google Classroom, and everybody could watch them and comment on them the following day.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point from what you've just said. You know, for me as an adult, if I want to know how to do something practical, I'll often search an instruction video anyway on how to do something. And that might be for a technical thing about how to do something, you know, with Zoom or whatever, or how to, you know, do something in the garden. And it's a life skill of how to be an independent learner. So what you're doing of saying for students how to find an appropriate video is a very useful skill for them to develop that'll make them a more independent learner later on. So, you know, that's one of the advantages when we do this of online learning well, is we're giving 21st century skills to our students that they'll be able to apply throughout their lives. You know, although we're at schools, we've got particular things we want them to know and be able to do. Really, as we found ourselves recently, it's a very unpredictable world we live in. We don't know what skills we will be needing in another 6 months' time. We never thought a year ago that we'd be looking at the intricacies of online learning, and here we find ourselves doing it. So we've all learned a large amount of technical skills recently, some of it independently, some of it being shown by other people. Our students in the next 50, 60, however many years, will have a tremendous amount of challenges that are not in the school curriculum. So the more we're giving them tools and ways of approaching the world where they learn things for themselves, the better. So if we set them challenges for them to do themselves, it's very, very important. Right. Any other points from anybody else?
Can I share something, sir? Sorry, ma'am. Sorry. Can I go on?
Please continue.
Okay. So I'm Harshi from Doha. I had seen and we had got good comments from the parents with the videos that we upload. Actually, what we do, I handle KG. So for KG, for kindergarten, what we do is we take the voiceover of that class teacher and we do our own videos and presentations. So when we give our voiceover to the students to hear, the thing is they are interested and they are anxious to anxious waiting to hear their own teacher's voice. So that what is making our, so we give our voiceover to the presentations which we make. We don't download from the YouTube or anywhere. We make our own videos and presentations for our children for the lesson. Each lesson we make one PPT, so or a video. So when they hear the teacher's voice, they know this is my class teacher. So they get interested in watching, even if it's very long. The parents are commenting that they sit for so long, they're sitting and they're listening because you are talking. And you are, and sometimes we put our videos as well so that they can hear us and see us as well. So this has just given us a good comment feedback from the parents when we give our voiceover. So this is what we are doing here.
Okay, that's really important. And that ties in very well with what I was saying about the relationships at the beginning. And the relationships really with the teacher and the youngest children are really, really crucial, the pivotal person. So what you said about hearing your voice is very important. So start with your voice, have it going through, and end with that, with making a connection with them as well. It's really good. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I speak? I was just saying that, you know, physical visibility is very important time and again for engagement from both sides. But often enough, students switch off their videos, particularly when they are of a certain older group or teenagers, and, you know, they are only physically present and not there, or, you know, you can't track them. So these are the issues one faces in engagement, in student engagement.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go back to my next slide, which is really what we're, just because it's a lot of what we're actually talking about. And that's how to call it touch points, points of connection between you, the students, that you're trying to have as many of them as possible for your age group. So I need to go into the actual PowerPoint to make it change. So it really depends on your age group in your school. And it might be, as you said, recording your video messages to different students or groups of students. Even if it's just, you know, with the younger ones, here's something about a story of what happened to you at the weekend or something. Messages, comments, and shared documents. But if you create a structure that works for you and your age group and stick to it, then the students are seeing that you're investing in the time and that you care about them. And there's a predictability and a routine about it that makes them feel secure and makes your own planning much, much easier. Primary classes typically start and end with a circle time when you say, here we are as a group, and you got some useful learning routines, and you've also got the personal connections, and also finish that with a story and so on. That's very useful to continue having a virtual circle time. But also, you know, in secondary students, particularly when children might be more isolated, they're at home, they're in limited social groups, it's useful with their form class to have some sort of circle time that uses some of the principles of, you know, checking in on everybody. Stories, shared reading are very useful, you know, young adult fiction for that age group, same as you would have for the stories for them. And show your face, make sure you smile, make sure your smile is visible. That makes people engage them. And if you're doing messages, you know, things like emojis are part of teenage speak anyway. So if you use them on the informal communication, that also helps open them up, and share your own experiences. Okay, the routine, I'll just stop the sharing and see what comments there are. Stop the screen sharing on that. Anybody using that kind of way of working? Anybody got to do a virtual circle time?
Yes, sir. We are utilizing the circle time. In complete 1 hour of circle time we are having with our children. And the emojis you were talking about, it is working miraculously, I must tell you. The children will be so fond of, like, if we miss for someone, ma'am, we didn't get our chocolate, or ma'am, we didn't get our flowers, they will point out to that particular thing, and we will be very careful in handling them these things. And yes, of course, it is working miraculously. It is being very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
Rana, would you like to share?
Yeah, I would like to share, because I'm a head of department, and we deal with the primary as well as the senior school. So it's like two different zones, you know, where one, the children are very excited and want to share, and the other, the seniors, are very quiet and silent, you know. So that's a very challenging situation. And at the same time, we need to keep in mind about their emotional intelligence, you know. I mean, we need to be very, very sensitive about that, because we really don't know what the child is going through, whether a young one or an adult, you know. I mean, a child who is a teenager. So yeah, in the juniors, my teachers act out to get their attention, though it's an Islamic education subject that my teachers are dealing with. But you know, they make sure that the multiple intelligence of the child is used. And even if it is a surah, they would like to, you know, make the children move around a little, you know, like, I mean, if they have to show about that, if Allah has created everything, so the teacher just waves out her hand, you know, so that the children also make that movement. So there's some exercise going on. So the children are not just stuck in the same place, and asynchronous exercises are encouraged a lot, so that, you know, when they're off screen, they're creating and they're having a discussion or a dialogue with their parents to, you know, come out with learning of what they've learned today in the classroom. Whereas when it comes to the seniors, it's a total different ball game. Our school has a platform which we use Microsoft Teams, and in that Nearpod is something that's working out really good with the senior school. We create a whole package, and then the discussions going on. And one thing I have noticed is that there are a lot of applications that we are all using. But those applications are all collaborations as a class, not small groups, you know. So I'm working on, you know, something like working on small groups for the senior schools where they can share and learn, talk.
Yeah. And that's when group challenges are also very important to do, or paired challenge, whether we want the children to have something they're going to do in a subgroup with, you know, 2 or 3 other students.
Yeah.
Something where they all have to take a role. It can't just be one. Same as in a class, you want to make it a task that you don't have one student doing it while the other 2 watch. There's something you need input for everybody, which is the hardest task for the teacher to design the activity.
I'm trying out something. It's a cooperative and collaboration strategy, that is the jigsaw with my breakout rooms.
Yeah, jigsaws are very useful. So, whenever each group has got something to do and bring it all to the bigger group for them to share. Again, the good thing about jigsaw is learning is the students have to have some product that they're going to share to other people. So they know they can't just drift through it. They have to say at the end, I'm looking at this particular piece, focus and have it articulated between each other so they can share it with a bigger group. So that's important part of the community, is that the community of learners, is that learning becomes visible and public, and there's also an accountability for the students and the small group.
And it becomes an assessment too.
Yeah. So coming into that, I'm going to go on to creating the routine, because that ties in a little bit. I'll just put the slide on. You've got you want to have a predictable range of lesson formats, so you can feed in things like jigsaw activities and the discussions. So you've got a range so the students know the kind of activities that they're doing. That's a safe learning environment, which sounds predictability. Then when it's instructed, it's faster and more efficient. So it takes a while to get the students used to jigsaw learning, for example. But when you've done it a few times, it'll be, remember when we did 3 weeks ago? Okay, this is the same routine. Here's the groups. Here's what you've got to do at the end. On you go. And it's a lot more efficient. When you're doing the routines, you really have to build in space for feedback very deliberately when it's online learning. That's both to the students to give them individual feedback, because you can't just walk around in the same in the class and say, have you thought about something? That normally takes 10 seconds and you're doing it all the time. And it's very important part of teaching, and also from the students to hear from them. So you want to have something, I'm going to recommend at the end, you've got a bit of time at the end of the lesson where you're having individual one-to-one touch, but also if you've got your smaller groups or hangouts or whatever your learning platform has, that you can talk with a small group of students in an open way, not just in the whole class. It's hard to give feedback to an individual in front of the whole class. Sometimes it can be embarrassing or inappropriate. So in person, you're scanning the room always for non-verbal cues, facial expressions, eye contact, posture, and then you can help who knows what and when you can move on. With online learning, if you get miniature faces and grids, and if the teenagers are turning off the camera, you don't get that. So it's got to be systematic, and look at the comprehension of the material and look at the engagement. And also try and have some feedback from the students about, are your assignments clear? What works well? Can they find out what they need to use easily? In a physical classroom, you can see if they got what they need or not, but you got to do it online. I'll stop for comments there as well. Any comments? This is reaction, because normally if you've got people in front of you, you can scan the group of people and say, who's ready to talk with something. This is a good illustration of what it's like in online things with students, that it's much harder to know exactly where everybody's at, because they're just faces in squares.
I think what you said about building routines is very important, and it works really well. For example, when I started off my formal teaching online, I had to grab their attention. So I introduced them to one online tool, which is the Padlet. In the first few lessons, they were not familiar how to use it. But after a couple of sessions, they became very proficient in filling up a Padlet. And it just sunk into them. After 2 weeks, I introduced them to online whiteboards and how to make use of them. So slowly and gradually, we not only built upon their learning of the content of the subject, but also the different tools available to us. We started off with Google Forms. Now, Google Forms are very easy. Later on, we introduced them to book widgets. So slowly and gradually, we developed their computer skills. And now they have reached a scale when they stage when they are smarter than us, and they identify different tools and they share them with us, which is wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's
In a
be
class,
interesting.
they know how the
Yeah, I'll be
sorry.
interested to see when things go back online, you know, because I've seen Padlet as well used before COVID situation quite well, when teachers were having children to pool their ideas and thinking. Now we've developed a better repertoire with more teachers and more students of how to use these interactive tools. There should be a flow into our in-person classes when we can run them, so that we say, all right, we want to share ideas. Here's a tool for doing it. Here's a tool for doing it. Here's a tool for it. And the students are familiar with the range, and we're familiar with the range. And also when we have our in-person lessons, a lot of schools now have hybrid models, then we can use those to develop the tools when the children are there in front of us. So it helps us make sure they can log on and set up and do everything, so that we're giving them a bigger range of technological tools to use either in person or with remote learning. Okay, I'm going to move on a little bit to online assessment, because, you know, when you first start teaching, part of your first 2 or 3 years really is spent how to assess learning automatically, and you build it into your way of working, that you look, as I was saying earlier on about the class, walk around, see how students are doing, and we need to consciously put them into online learning. Same as when we were first starting as teachers, we were very consciously learning how to walk around the class, how to find out who's having difficulties, who needs extension to it, which is part of being an expert teacher. It's important to daily tracking, and part of that really is same as in teaching, clear what your learning objectives are. So best lessons have clear learning objectives, and they've also got different objectives for different students who will be in different places. So you've got to somehow, in an online situation, see how your students are moving towards that. So is it, can you solve this particular type of maths problem? Can you write using this word? Islamic education, we heard earlier, do you know this particular surah? How are you finding that your students can do it by the end of the lesson? And when you find gaps in learning, there's lots of gaps happened this spring because we weren't prepared for what was happening. Sometimes there's a temptation to go quite quickly through the content to catch up, and that doesn't work so well. You need to be able to think through what the big ideas and the transferable skills they need to know for later. And right, I'll pass over. So how is everybody here finding it is to have your ongoing assessment of your students when they're not there in front of you, to know how well they're doing and what they need to do next?
Excuse me. So what I'm preferring here is I'm asking my children to pre-record their video, whatever we have taught them so far in a particular chapter, to pre-record it and picturize it as a presentation, explain each and everything. For example, in science, I have taken up the plants, and I have asked the children to go into their garden, find the different types of the plants they see, and name the different types of plants. I mean, whether it is herb, shrub, or a tree, or a climber, or a creeper even, to record it in their video and share it to their friends in the group, so that everybody will get to know what it is. And yes, it is having a great influence on our children, because everything is seeming live to them, and not just showing the pictures or videos, but they're touching themselves, feeling themselves, and then they are sharing their experiences with that particular thing.
Yeah, and a key part of that is the evidence for learning, that they will be thinking then about having evidence of learning, because they're showing, now I know this plant and also the application, I can apply it to my own garden. This is a creeper. I show that I understand it. This is a different thing. And if they don't take it for a clarification, or say, I'm not quite sure, what kind of thing should this be, and get the feedback from you. And sometimes that's more effective learning than we've seen in some classrooms, when you get, here's a fact, and they can repeat it in ways. And because your way of showing learning has traditionally been a piece of paper, some of that can be quite narrow and can be looking like learning without necessarily having that application to the world around them. So although it's a big challenge for us, what we're doing at the moment, hopefully it's helping us become deeper teachers, where we're having the children to provide themselves evidence of what they've been learning, and also an application, because sometimes they're doing it in their own home. So it's not just a classroom learning piece.
Yes. And they're being very particular about it, that we will not chop down the trees, we will take care of the plants. And also they have asked to, you know, spread this initiative not to chop down the trees, to grow more and more number of trees. And the parents are very happy with this idea. The children, you know, the seeds what they're getting from the kitchen after their mother uses for something, they're utilizing it to sow that in the soil and grow a plant. And parents are really happy with this thing.
Yes, that's very good, because if it's actual concrete evidence of learning, it's also concrete for parents. And another positive coming from it is, traditionally parents only see often twice a year, when you have parent conferences, what learning is going on. And it's harder to keep them in touch, and they may have different concerns. And in secondary, it's even worse, when they've got a few minutes with each teacher. So hopefully we're learning about how to keep the parents in the picture as we're going. Okay, I'm going to move on a little bit to classroom community, which I think is a very important. Hold on, I'm getting a phone call coming in, which I'm going to have to say I can't take. I'll listen to them later. Right, classroom community is a key part of, whoops, I must have, okay, sorry about that. So we've got, somehow the phone answered itself. You've got to make the class visible to itself, so students can be engaging with each other as well as the material and with you. So students are sharing, presenting the work, so that learners can see each other and from each other's work, same as you'd often do in a traditional classroom. It's useful to have peer comments, and it sends a message of support and community to each other and helps them become engaged. We've already talked about the breakup rules. You know, in a class, we also cold call on students. We say to people strategically, oh, what is this? What is that? Some teachers have been using, you know, different ways of doing it. You'll have a whole lot of pens, for example, and you'll say, I'm randomly going to take a pen. Okay, Mohammed answers. Now, Ahmed answers the next question. So it's more of a random way of doing things. It's useful to continue using these skills. Hold on. I'm keeping it. Someone trying to call. I'll have to call them back when the session finishes. Hold on. I will put it off. Sorry about this. I shouldn't be having. That's okay. Using these skills about cold calling students so that they're all engaged and they know that they're accountable also for listening and staying tuned in, and also you get the feedback from everybody directly about what they understand from what's happening and how far they're on with the actual lessons.
Can I just interrupt here?
Yeah.
As it says, cold calling on students and highlighting them, it's definitely not going to work for a teenager. Not, you know, because what I have noticed is that real life in physical school is different. You know, when a child is speaking, he's not looking at himself. In an online school, when the camera is on, the child is speaking, He's the highlight of every laptop in every house, right? And that is grabbing attention. And for a teenager, he doesn't want to be wrong. He doesn't want to be, it's the peer pressure as well, that I don't want to be wrong. So hey, I would not like to, like put my child into that uncomfortable situation. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, please.
No, I would say that's right. When you have students who are self-conscious, typically in a classroom, what you do is you say, well, they have to learn how to talk, develop their voice and so on, and do that in the smaller groups. So if they've got a hangout or a breakout group with 2 or 3 other students, then come into there and ask them in that much smaller setting rather than in front of a bigger group. Yes, so we want them to be able to talk, yeah, exactly, sensitive to whatever the student is, same as you would be in a regular classroom. But you want to have students talking about their learning. It's really very important for them. All right, Im wants to talk. Yeah, and had anybody else talking? Yeah. Iman? No, the hand slap, but I can put the hand off. I saw the hand in it. It might be just a thing. Okay, move on a little bit then to different activities, principles behind some of the activities. Now, these are the same as we've been having online in some way, but it's particularly difficult for the younger learners, we said that earlier on, and you want to be away from devices a lot of the time. Across the curriculum, stories help, narratives are very important, tell stories across every subject. They help engage students, they help bring them in. As human beings, we are programmed to listen to narratives, we respond very well to it. When you've got online lessons, make sure in the videos that you're showing and so on that they've got a certain amount of narrative coming in, and imaginative language. It's your chance to be a Hollywood star. But also the other aspect, authentic materials. Now, we're using a lot of technology now, so it's a very useful opportunity to have authentic materials. So to have, for language learning, mother tongue speech. So it's not only the teacher saying, demonstrating whatever language that you're teaching students. You get to find audio, authentic audio at the right level, radio broadcasts, newspaper clips, to find interactive maps. As many things as you can possible, always setting high expectations, and to make it very clear what it looks like. So if you're doing a writing lesson, this is what good writing would look like, this is what a good math solution looks like, and we can copy and paste our examples into a chat so students can refer to them and know what they're working towards. But we have to make sure our instructions and expectations are very clear. We can't see the cues, the confused expressions that we would in a regular classroom. Normally we say something, you can get a puzzled look from somebody, to stop, restate it, slow down, say it a different way. Got to be very careful of that. So often give something verbally and in written form. Talk them through it, stick it on a screen, and keep it posted all through the activity for them to do. I'll stop for some comments and feedback. No, I won't, because I'm not getting things. So let's go back on with my next thing. Long-term complex projects. One thing that we're wanting for students, been wanting for a while, is for them to do more complex projects, project-based learning and all that kind of thing. So to have challenges that need several steps for them to do, and have student-driven assignments when we can say, by 2 weeks' time, we want you to have done this piece of work. Often we can have some elements of choice in it, and some autonomy, and some checkpoints to say, during the 2 weeks, by 2 days' time, you should have done this. By 2 days' time after that, you should have done that. So they've got deadlines. It helps them break it up, and it's developing the skills of doing something quite complicated. Element of student choice is very good. So in 2 weeks' time, your project should be due. You may want to work on this, you may want to that. Let them have a choice. And some of that, get them off the computer. So it's not all on their computers. Get them doing practical things and opportunities to talk about what they're doing with their families. So in that 2 weeks, talk with your family, talk with your peers about your learning, and then they get feedback from what they're doing, and also have a high quality end product. They can make ebooks, videos, podcasts, whatever, or traditional products, but have something clear that they can be proud of doing at the end of the lesson. What kind of products have you been able to get from your students in the last few weeks?
Hello, Mr. Simon.
Hi.
Hi, this is Akifa from Qatar. I wanted to share an experience now that we are talking about what digital products or products in general we are expecting from the students. So maybe before we would have some group learning, some flow charts they come up with, which showed the engaged discussion they had in their groups. But now we are moving more towards some collaborative learning spaces, some online posters they've done, or some video explaining how they understood the topic well. Really anything that would show to us that the objectives of the lesson were covered and were understood by the students. So things like online posters, podcasts, videos, these seem to be working out well at the moment. And unlike us, students sometimes have a better idea of what online products they can deliver to show their learning. So especially for the older learners, I think this turns out to be great.
I think that's very important, because what we're doing as the teachers, we're saying this is the standard of learning you should be demonstrating. And particularly as they get older, we're putting the responsibility more onto them to say how they develop that. So we're the ones that say, know roughly where we want to get them, or to be able to say to students, you did better than I expected, encourage them, or maybe you do something, did you think about something? So to be saying, what are they actually showing through their learning? But the more they can say, you know, how to do a podcast, they'll go in more into the detail than we would ever dream of wanting to do, on how to make use some of the digital platforms. And also, because they've got an element of choice, overall, they will have a wider range of technologies than we'd be able to master, but they've got to show it to us. So our job is to say, this is what you've got to show evidence of, and then give them feedback for how well they're showing their learning, what have they been able to show of their understanding of the skills, of the communication or whatever. And hopefully they'll impress us a lot of the time. I've been impressed with quite a lot of what I've seen of some learning. There's been some very good work going on in very difficult circumstances.
Rightly said, Mr. Simon.
Can I share something, Sam? Harshi here again. When we was talking about these digital products, I'm again handling the kindergarten children. So what we did was, like, for storytelling and rhymes and everything, like we introduced the augmented learning to the children, and we do augmented learning in the class as well, because we have started blended learning here in Qatar now. So we have few students in the school as well as online, both blended, it's going on. So what we do, we project everything so that online and the children who are physically in the class, they can see their friends as well as what is happening online. So when we introduce this augmented learning, the parents have started now, when we ask them, okay, storytelling, now this week, this story, you have to send us a video. So the children have started even doing the augmented at home. So when they're doing the storytelling, they are they include this augmented learning, which we have taught them, and with the pictures and the animation, everything, they send us the video recording. So it's a very positive thing, as per for me as a teacher, from this 3.5 to 4-year-old child to get this augmented learning reality to when they send us the videos, it's really amazed to see how they are telling the story. They are retelling the story with this reality. So it's really amazing. So this is what is the latest digital thing that we have introduced, and the parents are also having that interest to implement it. So thank you, sir. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Me again, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in our senior school, we are mostly providing summer model learning, so that every stage of learning is integrated with technology, and plus each stage is an assessment on its own, you know.
Mm.
That's all about.
Okay. Well,
Simon, hi. There are a lot of comments on the chat. Probably we could ask them to speak. Dima, would you like to share, please?
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, I'll just talk about my experience with undergraduate students. I found that one of the best ways to engage students is definitely through project-based learning, or just, you know, introducing projects in the classroom. And also one of the things I focused on was collaboration in the classroom. So whether it was annotating, writing, everything was done collaboratively. And it was great to, you know, first I introduced these wonderful tools. There are, you know, lots of tools online for reading annotation, for annotating readings, for writing as well. And also for, you know, just giving feedback, so they can give feedback even anonymously. So I used Padlet, I used Kami for annotation or hypotheses. With the writing as well, I think with any age group you can use Google Docs or the online documents as well. And I definitely think that this would be the best way to engage students. Simon, you mentioned first about communication and community. And to be honest, this is probably one of the, we talk a lot about it, but I think it's one of the things that are not applied a lot, and it should be focused on at the very beginning. I spend a week or so just trying to build community with the students, and I just forget about learning outcomes and all that, because I will not be able to reach the students if I don't get their, you know, attention, their respect. If I don't build that sense of community and respect among each other, it's not going to be easy to reach them and to apply all these, you know, to whatever it is we have to learn later on. It's not going to be easy. If you want, I'll share the tools that I've used with the students. It was really great, and the students are still using it. They're still, even when classes are over, they still, you know, communicate with me, communicate with each other, and it's so amazing. One of the best things I love about online learning right now and remote teaching is that I can reach actually the students more. It's more accessible than ever. So this is my feedback or my experience.
Yes, I think it's very positive. I particularly appreciate what you were saying about the project learning, and also about the community, and the time invested on developing the community at the beginning of the year is really well spent, but also to sustain it and to say the purpose of some activities or some sessions is building that, you know, community of writers or of scientists or of mathematicians, whatever subject it is, that sense of being able to engage with each other about it is important twofold, because it facilitates your learning, as you said, because they can learn together, but it also facilitates them being the kind of people that we want them to be at the end, because we're preparing them for life, and life is a very collaborative endeavor. We want them to be able to exchange ideas and work, and also have long-term projects when they've got to do something later in life that will take a certain amount of time, and will have steps that they've got to plan and work out towards and keep themselves on track. So what you're saying is, I think it's very important, both as ways of them learning, but also for being important as ways of living that they will need later on.
Said, would you like to share? Said Manamar?
Hello. Oh, I'm in my video. Hi, everybody. I'm Said from Morocco. Well, I'm an expert in education, but I mostly work in higher education with undergrad and postgraduate. But I just wanted to share something with you. I've been listening to all my colleagues, and probably what is interesting is everybody is facing a lot of challenges, but these challenges are, witnessed everywhere. And this is simply because when talking about online, simply what you live in with or live in is not really online learning, but it's emergency online learning. There's a big difference between online learning when it is well planned and emergency. This is why we just learning how to get organized and how to organize. Just to say that, online learning needs a lot of preparation, a lot of management and leadership, and a lot of tools to be used. And when I've been listening to Dina talking about project-based learning, maybe this word or a concept that comes in, and which is a link between the online and the face-to-face, which is the experience itself. The most important for the students learning is that we can share with them a learning experience, an amazing learning experience that would lead to learning. And project-based learning is a fantastic, amazing, tool and technique that is grounded in research, by the way, and it's supposed to be effective in learning. And whether you're doing it online or you do it in face-to-face is highly effective, because really it connects people, and especially these people that are students belonging to the Y generation. That means that they know about, they very, keen about technology and the internet and so on, that it's very easy to use technology to get connected with all these peoples. But so that experience, the word experience, is the most important thing. So project-based learning and collaborative learning and problem solving and all these techniques really help students learn a lot. So what we should do now, probably some of the if you want an advice to give, is that we just learn from this experience to learn how to get organized. But in the future, I think we should know that online is also grounded in research, so that requires a lot of work, a lot of commitment, a lot of leadership, and that it has to be planned, just not do it as we're doing it now, because we're doing it in an emergency, because we have been, under this pandemic, and now we just try to optimize the different solutions and the learning solutions. So I believe we have much to learn, but we have to get back to literature, to research. And I really joined Dima, other colleagues talking about different techniques like for instance, project-based learning, maybe to more schedule and plan some learning courses.
To say what you're saying really is to move it away from the emergency that we were all facing last spring, to be saying now, how do we make it expert? Because we all scrambled when it went online to have learning platforms, to learn the mechanics of how to use them. It was desperate measures, sometimes looking at what can we do today. But now it's a new school year, and what we're going to say is, how do we make sure we have all these really important techniques like project-based learning, the important ideas, like community and relationships and connection, so on. So we use them really strategically and make a very high quality learning environment. And a lot of these aspects, project-based learning is going on for decades. And we know some things that make it work and some things that don't make it work. And the more we're spreading these ideas, it'll make us more successful as educators and our students more successful, whatever happens, whether we're online, we don't know what the future will bring, but we know that these ways of learning are highly effective and will make our students more successful.
Sure.
Asha Jackson, would you like to share?
Hello everyone. So yeah, what I am used to do for project is whatever task I give, they used to come out with great works, and really they will surprise me. So once I have given this last week, I have given a quiz contest to organize, and they students they planned everything in well advance, and this lesson is based on realms of earth. So about continents and oceans and all others, they can get a lot of interesting information about those topics. So they organized in just a very great way and surprised me. So what I felt is if they are persistent in any work, whatever work we give, they will take it in that way, sense means they'll come out with great, means surprising and wonderful ways. Students are great and amazing. That's what I felt by my experience. Whatever assignment or project work I give means they go for further details than what we expect for. So that's the students of this days. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, see, it's already gone 10 o'clock. It's about 7 minutes past 10. So
yeah. I just want to ask one question, Simon, because that's very prevalent and often ignored in these online classes, and that is for the, for the inclusive education, for the gifted students. But generally they feel ignored, they finished earlier and they're waiting for the rest in a regular class. And those with special needs, their needs, because as I say, their accommodations are not really possible online so much, so that needs help.
Yes, I was going to put my sample lesson plan, although we're out of time, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. But I've just put it up on the slide now. I don't know how easy it is for people to see. I think there's two parts. In the independent work phase, you wanting to be able to have differentiation, different things for different students to do, whether it's online or not, and some may be differentiated by outcome, some by support. But I also, from what I've gathered, the flexible time at the end of the lesson is very useful. So I wouldn't, if you got an hour, just as an example, because often people have got an hour slot, it's useful to have the last 15 minutes as a flexible time and say at the end, all right, we've finished the main body, this is what you've got to do next. And it may be for some students just getting on their homework or whatever, but also you want a bit of time then to do individual reteaching or extension work. You want sometime you can be an extension subgroup of your lesson where you go to a different group and say, now I'm working with this group to go over, consolidate work on division and remainders, to have a different kind of mathematical challenge, or to, how to put a paragraph for a small group of students who need it. Also for learning support teachers and also emotional support, because counselors also have an important role. That when you find that students are having difficulty, it might be emotional difficulty or educational difficulty, then you want to have some time to say, well, we're having this small group, 2 students, 1 student, with the right people to give them the individual attention that they need, the same way as you would in a class. In some ways, online can be better because it's not so visible. You don't see them going out of the classroom to work with Miss such and such down the corridor. They just go into a different group, and they can be having some learning support. But yeah, you have to keep those programs going, and the emotional support particularly, because you'll know yourselves which of your students are more vulnerable. Okay, I think we're sort of towards the end of the time. So I think I have to, thanks very much for all the different comments and feedback and the sharing. It was very, very enjoyable talking to you all this morning.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Simon. We would like to issue certificates for all those who attended. So when probably by tonight or tomorrow, you're going to receive an email from us, Serendib Training, where we will share the recording of the session. And when you receive that email, just reply that mail with the name that you'd like on your certificate. Thank you.
Thank you, Melvin. Very useful, very useful.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really helpful for us. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thanks a lot. Okay, very informative. Much I can gather from it. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Excuse me, Malavan sir, can I just request for something? Sorry.
I never realized I added the word sir to my name. Just please call me Malavan.
Okay. Is it possible for Mr. Simon to share the slides with us? Is it okay if it's okay?
Yeah.
Like the information, because it was very informative. I tried to write down a lot, but still I could not. But it's really informative. If you can, not the slides, if you can share little things with us, like little information so that I can share with my colleagues, because I think this is really needed for all of us. But only I think 5 of us from the whole campus is we attended.
Okay.
Miss Asha Jackson is also from our school, and
okay.
if we can get the full information, then I can share it with my colleagues, if it's possible, if it's okay with you, because all rights are on your side. So I'm asking something of your rights.
That's how we charge and make money, Harshi.
Mr. Malvan, I think you know Manju ma'am from our school, OIS.
Yes, yes.
So you can just share it with her so that she will share it with the HMs. If it's possible, Mr. Simon, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Glad it was useful.
Thank you, Mr. Malavan. Thank you.
Yes, Salam. We'll be sharing the slides with everybody. Okay. I think some of them were having challenge with their videos.
Yeah.
The video, the mic.